Hey guys, thanks for checking in on the NFN Radio News Podcast, brought to you by Not Fake News.biz. I'm Bob Gaddy, editor and publisher of Not Fake News. You know, we're all living with the COVID-19 pandemic in one way or another, and whether we realize it or not, it's having an impact on our lives, in addition to just our physical health. Studies show that 1 in every 3 survivors of the virus experience mental health conditions, the majority being anxiety and mood disorders. And it's not just those who actually have experienced the virus directly who experience mental health issues because of it. Clinical psychologist Avantika Dixit, who founded an organization called Woke Hero, says that with anxiety and depression on the increase, it's critically important to inspire people to take action to protect their own mental health. To explore this further, NFN Radio News spoke with Avantika from India, where she lives and works. So please excuse occasional audio glitches, which were the result of a sometimes iffy internet connection. Take a listen to Mental Health in the Age of COVID with Avantika Dixit from Not Fake News.biz. So, tell us about Woke Hero and how it came about and what it does.
Think of objectives. So, Woke Hero usually stands for, from hero's journey, which is someone that has had an awakening, stepped into the fighting demons and monsters and things like that, and emerged with some sort of profound wisdom, elixir, learning, which then they bring back as the master of the previous world that they were very familiar with, and also this new world, which was basically a disrupted world. So yeah, the hero part of it comes from there, and the woke part of it comes because I work with the millennials, and they are the woke. The word woke is a term that they really identify with, and but it's not even a generational term. If you think of 2012, we actually did surveys and stuff like that. So my company, we do a lot of global polls and surveys. You can find a lot of that on my website. We have a lot of insights as to how the largest living generation dances with life. And in 2012, less than 5% of people would have something like a meditation or a contemplative practice. In 2017, that number rose to about 14%. And on the anniversary of the pandemic this year, in March, when I polled the world, that number was a whopping 51%. So yes, we are, I think, like it or not, emerging as some sort of an awakened generation.
Okay. What is your professional background, Avantika?
I started off in the world of technology, and I had the privilege and the honor of working with some really lovely millennials globally. When I was doing that, about 35,000 people made up the teams that I was leading globally. So I was a global vice president of an HP group. And I got to do a lot of enterprise technology, which was really about, taking enterprises to the cloud and helping them adopt new technology. But in that process, when I retired from that corporate world, I went back to this whole, because what I was seeing was these two worlds. One was the world of corp tech, and then there was this world of the collective consciousness, which was having an existential crisis. So right now, I am a practicing clinical psychologist and a clinical hypnotherapist, also a positive psychologist. And I've done all of these modalities, learning from some of the best people in the world, some of the best founders of these modalities, such as Martin Seligman from positive psychology, or Carl Dawson from EFT, matrix reimprinting. And one of the reasons, obviously, my objective was not to become the most brilliant therapist. My objective was to come up with solutions for the global existential crisis. And I just felt that these would be great modalities to master, because that's really what I found is in doing 3,000 sessions with people around the world, whether they were in Manhattan or in Kenya or in Sri Lanka or India or wherever in the world they were, they all had similar problems. They all were seeking for a purpose, search for peace, solution for this disruption, because everyone's life has been disrupted and going to such an accelerated pace. So yeah.
Okay. In your view, how has the pandemic affected people, both people who have suffered from the virus themselves and those who have not, but have been, forced to quarantine and have had to live the life that we've all had to live over the past year?
I'm so glad you asked that. Um, when we do our training in psychology and in clinical work, we're told to diagnose post-traumatic stress disorder and mental health disorder using certain parameters. One of them, which gives us an idea that the individual may be, at a very high risk of developing mental health disruption. Let's not call it disorder, let's just call it disrupted, a point where you need help, you need support, where you need additional tools to cope. One of them is having more than three adverse childhood experiences. Another one of them is having more than one or two critical life events take place in a year. And that could be things like starting a new job, getting into a new relationship, having a divorce, being diagnosed with a critical illness, whatever that thing is. And the third one is undergoing some sort of a traumatic experience which has put your health or your safety at risk, either going through it yourself or observing someone else go through it. Now let's just take a step back and just give a thought as to what the world has been going through, this unnatural phenomenon where everyone has been brought face to face with their own mortality. The news has been covering, rightfully facts and statistics, but it definitely had some sort of an impact on the human psyche with all of your survival fears, pretty much, taking to the heightened state of trauma and fight and flight. So all of these conditions actually are very, very highly presented. So in a clinical view, the whole world right now is at very high risk of going through a PSTD, just if you take a look at all of the clinical parameters. And what that has presented itself in real life effects is absolutely huge rise in, people who are going through breakdowns, people who are checking out, domestic violence, physical abuse, more self-harm and greater diagnosis of depression and anxiety. So that is absolutely a real life uh, challenge, an opportunity for everyone to kind of master. So whenever I think of something being presented as a problem, I immediately go to solution. The solution is using this, the whole world could really master some of the coping strategies, which regardless of what disruption is in our path, if we just kind of work on our resilience and our coping and tap into some of these really brilliant strategies that are available to us, then we're that better prepared, because disruption isn't going away anywhere, but disruption management could become the next secret source of mental wellness.
Okay, so people who are listening to this podcast, many of them will have had to cope with the impact of either having been, forced to stay home, not socialize, all of that has occurred because of the quarantines that have been required, etc. Others of us have had to cope with the reality that we actually contracted COVID. We survived. It was a scary, scary, scary experience. Now, what can we do going forward to try to take us out of this mindset that we've been forced to endure? What can we do?
We have to collectively and individually, first of all, work on perspective. And we have to understand and work on reminding ourselves through visualizations and self-talk and positive self-talk that there has been the human history is a history of trauma, disease, pandemic, right from the earliest times. And even though in our lifetime, this is probably the most serious that we have seen, but it is not an unprecedented event in human history. So the first thing I think that everyone needs to kind of, start working on is on the perspective building techniques, because with all of the work in positive psychology on learned helplessness, this could really take people to spiral down into giving up. And this isn't new. Just about 5 years ago, when there was a lot of talk about how the world was at huge risk from climate change, which is a reality. Uh, there is a new, because I work with a lot of young clients, there's a new condition that has actually, unprecedented condition, which is called eco anxiety. So people actually have developed this, young people have this morbid fear. One of the things that the whole world would really benefit from doing right now is to focus less on how to fix this, because there's so many things that are not really, when collectively we are faced with a challenge that doesn't have a very easy solution presented, we've got to really work on perspective and resilience building strategies. So, because very quickly our negativity bias, which is what human evolution is wired in, we are, in order to keep us safe, our brains have actually evolved us to believe the worst of every situation. So it's going to be actually presenting to us the situation as being even more critically damaging than what the reality is. And I'm not saying that the reality isn't grim, but I'm just saying that with in the field of positive psychology, uh, there is something called learned helplessness, and that is something that collectively we need to avoid, because the last thing that we need as a human race right now is to go into a mindset that this is it, and this is the end of the world, and this is the end of our lives as we knew it, and just kind of looking at the stats of the new cases and looking at the stats of all of the things that have gone wrong. I guess, if you do social learning, we will find that there have also been a lot of positive things which have come out of it, just like every event has. So for people who are stuck at home right now, people who have already contracted COVID right now, people who are living in abject fear of, losing their loved ones, or of being impacted financially, or relationship wise, or geographically, people who haven't been able to see their loved ones for months and months and months. For all of them, the number one thing would be to gain the perspective that the human history has been fraught with pandemics, with all sorts of catastrophes, tragedies, and the one constant has been that we have overcome a lot. So we have it in us, collectively, to kind of get through this, and this too shall pass. Now, having said that, some of the practical things that people can do, which can really help everyone right now, wherever you are, is leverage the world of the techno spiritual revolution. The world of the COVID pandemic is also the world which has brought us the techno spiritual revolution. And there is quite a lot of support that is available online right now. So it would be a great time to kind of take a step back. I think a lot of people, when I reach out to a lot of people already doing that, use this as an opportunity to uh, develop new skills. Exercise is a fantastic coping. It just has so many physiological, emotional, and mental benefits, and it can be done using in technical support systems that are available to people, and that is definitely something that everyone should leverage at this time. Having said all of that, the paradox is sometimes it makes sense to do a digital detox. When you're stuck at home, everyone is spending so much time on Zoom calls, on their phones and everything, and that also has a damaging impact on, and consuming so much news about all of the gloom and doom situation in the world. If one is truly just locked down and having cabin fever and things, one could just go within and do a digital detox, just even if it's only for a few hours every day. And science has shown that external reality, you a physiological, emotional, and psychological state of well-being, and that then translates into reality. So none of this is woo-woo crazy. This is absolutely being tested in clinical studies, meta studies, And that's really what my message to everyone listening this would be.
Is there a nutritional aspect to this?
My take on nutrition is common sense and your genetic wiring, because some people have evolved from cultures which are really good when it comes to doing plant based, and some people have evolved from cultures which do animal based protein really well. The idea is mindful nutrition. And the best example for this is the blue zone. Because let's take a step back from the COVID situation. Let's take a step back. This COVID situation is going to, however long it drags, it does have some sort of a conclusion in sight. In the broader picture, we have unlocked, the world has unlocked the opportunity. Just think of it, 100 years ago, in 1920, the average lifespan of a human being was 35 years. And people who are, in reasonably good health right now are looking already at lifespans of, over 85. And for the young generations, they've unlocked the opportunity to live up to 100. But the risks are that 1 in 2 people may be diagnosed with dementia. 1 in 3 people may have a mental disruption or disorder diagnosis. And the risks of contracting all of these millennial things beyond COVID is also extremely high. So my take on nutrition is, eat what's going to keep you disease-free and well for 100 years. That should really be the battle plan. And that is something that the blue zones are geographic, socioeconomic zones in the world. The Mediterranean diet is very good. There are certain places in Japan and certain, so these zones have been studied very extensively. You can research the blue zones and you will understand that these are people that eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. They eat meat in moderation as a very small part of their diet. They eat only up to the time that they're 85% full. They don't eat in excess at any time, and they generally don't eat processed or refined food very much. 90% of the diet is whole and naturally process free. So that would be my strategy on nutrition. Eat what is going to keep you disease free for up to 100.
We need to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we'll talk to Avantika about meditation helped her recover from a brain tumor.
When I was 23, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and a very life debilitating, diagnosis actually, which basically, and I'm talking about 20 years ago. So spoiler alert, I kind of beat that. But at that time, what it looked like was that it's not going to be a very long life, and whatever life it is going to be, it's not going to be a very healthy one. The only reason I attribute to my wellness, really, and a lot of other things, cognitive ability and a lot of my achievements and the ability to kind of do more with less effort and to be more resilient, regardless of what's hitting, is meditation. And it was easy for me coming from, being from the Indian origin family. I guess I had easy access to things like yoga and meditation and things like that. But I find it very heartening right now, 20 years later, that so many people, 50% of the world that I polled at least, and I'm not saying this is representative of the whole world, of the 1,000 people that we polled, 51% of them do have some sort of a daily meditation practice. And the rise in the number of meditation apps and meditation schools and teachers and courses and just resources that are free and abundantly available, I guess we should really tap into that. Brain studies have shown a 300% improvement in cognitive ability. And going back to the stats of really living, as I said, we should not just stay, it's not just the length of life, it's the quality of life as well. So being disease-free also means being free from dementia. And meditation is probably one of the best preventative things for depression and dementia that has been clinically proven.
I want to be clear. Did you say that you suffered a serious brain tumor and you thought you were going to die?
That is right. When I was 23, and I had zero ambition and zero experience in life, I was jolted by this incredibly startling, disruptive diagnosis, which said that you have a brain tumor and your life is going to be that which is going to require medical support throughout. And you're not going to be able to work or travel or do anything that you really want to do. So I went through 10.5 hour brain surgery, got the tumor removed. And of course, the diagnosis was after the surgery. Even the odds of my making it through the surgery were even very slim. Very, very grateful to have beat that. The only reason that, the 2 decades after that, which followed, in which I hit. So here's the other thing, and that's just think of this thing which is happening in COVID also like a huge debilitating diagnosis that the world has been given, that look, you're not in control, something is happening in your life, and the prospects don't look great. In my life, when I was given that diagnosis, I just learned to make the most of every day and see what I can do to get through that day and what do I know then. And then, as a series of doing that and doing things like yoga and meditation and mindfulness and, other things that I won't go into right now. 3 years later, I was absolutely off medication. So I switched from medication to meditation. And it's been 7 years since I've even had to go into a hospital for anything other than my regular brain, body work and brain scans and blood work and everything. So it's incredible. The healing capacity of the body is miraculous if one just gives it the right.
Well, that is an incredible story. And in those years since you had that brain tumor, you worked for big tech, for some big technical company, right? And you had this pretty thriving career going on, right?
Yeah.
And then you came to a point in your life where you decided that wasn't what you wanted to do, that you wanted to go beyond that. And so you became a clinical psychologist, and you are now doing what you're doing with your business and your organization. That's an incredible story. Where are you? Are you in India?
That is right. I am in Bangalore, India right now.
The PR person sent me four kind of tips for people to follow. One was daily contemplative practices that we've just talked about. Another was good nutrition. Another was exercise, which you've mentioned. And the final one was making sure you get a good night's sleep. How can somebody who is worried to death about all of this stuff dealing with COVID get a good night's sleep?
Great question. And the way you get a great night's sleep is to engineer your consciousness. And that goes back to certain tools and certain techniques that one can do. So let's just understand what happens when we go to sleep. When we go to sleep, literally, and if we're having good sleep, because there could be, we're just having a restless night, and that isn't really going to help you feel great. But a really good sleep, if you get, 4 hours of deeply restful REM quality sleep, where you are in brain states which are higher than theta and delta. Alpha is when you start going to this daydreaming. So when you're sitting in a boring class or a meeting and someone is just going off on a rhetoric and you just like, but the babies who have the job of literally growing and regenerating at a very fast rate, they spend 80% of their time in theta brainwave state. They sleep a lot, and their sleep states are all very deeply healing and restorative. And nobody has to tell them, how to, or teach them how to do that. It's just naturally planned in. The one that you need to really start looking at hitting is the delta sometimes. That comes when you are a practiced meditator. So after about 6 weeks of a meditation practice, a lot of people find themselves in that delta brainwave state. And that is why sometimes when you've had like good 20-minute meditation, you might feel as if you have just, been in the spa and just gotten a massage or something. You feel very rejuvenated sometimes. If it's a good meditation, I mean, there's some people that don't really hit those notes. Um, Sleep is something like that. And a digital detox is is vital because we live in the distraction world right now. So it's very difficult to hold a theta brainwave state or a delta brainwave state when you're also kind of distracted with all of this noise around. So my recommendation to anyone that is looking at developing great sleep is to at least have 20 to 30 minutes of good exercise in a day, at least a 20-minute of a regular meditation practice where you are priming and tutoring yourself. And this can easily be done over 21 days, hitting those theta brainwave states that babies very naturally go into. And the final one is, of course, a little bit of stress management and things. We live, unfortunately, in a world where there's a lot of medication. And I would also kind of, request everyone to go back and work with their doctors and see how they can, manage their medication protocols and keep it, a little bit, because I think a lot of people are trying to medicate themselves into sleep, and what that does is counters. So I'm not giving any medical advice over here, but my recommendation is when you're doing all of these other life management strategies, also work with your health practitioner to see what can be done to as low state of medication as is healthy for you.
Okay.
So let's just talk about social isolation
right
now and what that does, because some of the very key hormonal requirements for well-being, mental well-being, are, let's call them DOSE, DOSE, the inner pharmacy, where we don't have to get any prescription and we can just manufacture our own feel-good, chemicals. So one of them is D, that is dopamine, and the other one is O, that is oxytocin. S stands for serotonin. A lot of people that have anxiety and depression have imbalances of serotonin. And E stands for all of these endorphins and feel-good kind of, hormones that are. So in social isolation and in the lockdown, oxytocin, which is really what comes from intimate connections with other human beings. So think of a mom bonding with a baby, and the baby, feeling loved, and think of two loving partners just cuddling, or a hug from, your family member or from a good friend. All of these things are very naturally inducing to oxytocin. And one of the things that we do in visualization is give yourself a hug. If there's no one around, just give yourself a hug. So just put your arms around yourself. We call it the butterfly hug. And, with just that much, and doing some reparenting visualizations, or if you have access to a loving, intimate partner, oxytocin doesn't get released when there's casual relationships. It gets released when there is the element of intimacy and caring involved. So that would be a great tip for anyone that is looking at what they can do to improve that side of things.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this conversation before we sign off?
I just loved having this conversation. Thank you so much. There's nothing that I can think of. I think it's just a process. Think of life as a journey, not an event. And this is just, an opportunity for everyone to just understand that, all of us come and all of us will one day leave. And in the middle is this journey that we call life. And it's just an adventure. And we always have the opportunity to make each day, for whatever it's worth, whatever is showing up. It could show up as a disaster. It could show up as a wonderful surprise. So whatever is in our path, we have the opportunity to just build a very wellness-oriented perspective towards.
Okay. Well, thank you, Avantika. It was great. Hey, guys, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and you'll come back on a regular basis. For longtime listeners, you know that we provide narrations of commentary published almost every day on notfakenews.biz. But we've expanded our offering to include newsmaker interviews, and we're going beyond the world of politics for those, presenting guests and topics that I hope you find interesting and enlightening, like this one. So that's just another reason for you to follow NFN Radio News so you don't miss an episode. You never know who'll be showing up. Check out notfakenews.biz too, where you'll find new material just about every day by some excellent writers with perspectives on a whole range of topics. You can sign up as a member at notfakenews.biz. And of course, it's all free. Also, let your friends know about this podcast and about notfakenews.biz. Our goal is to be informative and entertaining as we comment on the latest developments in the news with just a little lean to the left. Now, this is Bob Gaddy signing off for NFN Radio News and NotFakeNews.biz.
As a very small part of their diet. They eat only up to the time that they're 85% full. They don't eat in excess at any time, and they generally don't eat processed or refined food very much. 90% of the diet is whole and naturally process free. So that would be my strategy on nutrition. Eat what is going to keep you disease free for up to 100. Uh, I'm just gonna dive into personal experience here for a bit. When I was 23, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor and a very life debilitating, diagnosis actually, which basically, and this is, I'm talking about 20 years ago. So spoiler alert, I kind of beat that. But at that time, what it looked like was that it's not going to be a very long life, and whatever life it is going to be, it's not going to be a very healthy one. And the only reason I attribute to my wellness really, and a lot of other things, cognitive ability and a lot of my achievements and the ability to kind of do more with less effort and to be more resilient, regardless of what's hitting, uh, is meditation. And it was easy for me coming from, being from the Indian origin family. I guess I had easy access to things like yoga and meditation and things like that. But I find it very heartening right now, 20 years later, that so many people, 50% of the world that I've polled at least, and I'm not saying this is representative of the whole world, but
To try to
of the thousands
take us out of
51% of them do have some sort of a
this
daily
mindset
meditation
that
practice,
we've been
and the
forced to
rise
endure.
in the number of
What can we
meditation
do?
apps and meditation schools and teachers and courses and just resources that are free and abundantly available. I guess we should really tap into that. Uh, Brain studies have shown, a 300% improvement in cognitive ability. Um, and going back to the stats of really living, as I said, we should not just stay. It's not just the length of life; it's the quality of life as well. So being disease free also means being free from dementia. And meditation is probably one of the best preventative things for depression and dementia that has been clinically proven. That is right. When I was 23, and I had zero ambition and zero experience in life, I was jolted by this incredibly startling, disruptive diagnosis, which said that you have a brain tumor and your life is going to be that which is going to require medical support throughout. And you're not going to be able to work or travel or do anything that you really want to do. So I went through 10.5 hour brain surgery, got the tumor removed. And of course, the diagnosis was after the surgery, even the odds of my making it through the surgery were even very slim. Very, very grateful to have beat that. And the only reason that,
excuse me, Avantika, you broke up right after the word morbid fear.
So here's the other thing, and that's just think
your
of
audio
this
was
thing
just
which
lost.
is happening in COVID also like a huge debilitating diagnosis that the world has been given. That look, you're not in control.